Hello everybody, welcome. In this video, I am going to take you through everything that you need to know about Universal Studios' brand new park, Epic Universe, that's going to be coming to Orlando here in 2025. This is so much more than just a theme park, and it is going to change absolutely everything in this entire area. We are going to go through all the progress, everything that we know so far, and what's going to be coming, so stay tuned. Alright, let's get started. So what is Epic Universe? Just in case there's anybody that doesn't know what it is. Epic Universe is the brand new park that's coming to Orlando. It's slated right now to be opening in 2025. And it is going to expand Universal's footprint by a lot. We'll go through the numbers in just a bit. So Universal Orlando Resort has 3 gates right now. You hear people talk a lot about gates. For example, you hear people talk about how Disney needs to add a 5th gate because they have 4 parks right now, and people are saying they need to add a 5th park. Universal Orlando Resort has 3 gates. Technically, it's kind of only 2 gates because there's Universal Studios, the park, and there's Islands of Adventure, the park. But Universal Studios does actually refer to Volcano Bay, its water park, as a 3rd gate because they consider it a 3rd park. When it comes to Disney, they don't count their water parks as gates when people talk about the gates. So it's a little bit different. What Epic Universe is it's going to add a 4th gate to Universal Orlando Resort. And there's actually a lot more to it than that, but let's just stick to Epic Universe for now. When you think of the footprint for Universal, you have Universal Studios, you have Islands of Adventure, and then you have this massive sort of shopping district or entertainment district, which sort of sits right in the middle between the two and connects them, called City Walk. On top of that, you have Volcano Bay. Now, Universal has added giant areas to Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure with Hogsmeade, the Wizarding World, and Diagon Alley within the Wizarding World. So it is a massive area. Plus, there are a lot of hotels. The problem is that they are completely out of space when it comes to the Universal Orlando Resort. There is nothing else they can do. Aside from demolishing attractions, demolishing buildings, and replacing them with things, they have no space left. So what Universal has done is they've purchased a huge plot of land where they are building what they call Epic Universe, but it is more than just a park. Epic Universe is one area of this space that they're creating. Let's talk a little bit about where it is. It's located about only a couple of miles from where Universal Studios is today. It's maybe a 5 to 15 minute drive depending on traffic. They are actually extending Kirkland Road to actually connect the 2 parks much more seamlessly, and will have dedicated bus lanes that will take you there. So it will be a lot closer, it'll be smooth, and it won't be much different from traveling from somewhere like the Magic Kingdom to Animal Kingdom. So it will be a pretty short bus trip or a short drive. It won't be walkable, however. And at first that kind of seems like that's not going to be great, but let's talk a little bit about why it's not going to matter that much. As I mentioned earlier, Epic Universe is not just one new theme park that they're creating. It is an entire ecosystem. It's almost an entirely new theme area, theme world, and it is going to more than double the size of what is already owned and operated by Universal today. And we'll talk about how big this thing is in just a sec. So the space that they've purchased and that they're creating is going to house Epic Universe, but more than that, it's going to house hotels. Right now, the existing Universal property has 8 hotels, roughly. 6 of them within the sort of bubble of Universal, and then 2 hotels that are slightly off property with the Endless Summer Resorts. And then you have the water park and you have City Walk, all within this area. What this new space is going to bring, and they've already started to define the areas, is it's going to create a new theme park called Epic Universe. That's what this video is primarily about. But it's also going to create a new City Walk. An entirely new City Walk district will be built with this Epic Universe, and an entirely new parking structure, and right now an additional 6 hotels. So this is not just a theme park, it is an entirely new Universal Orlando Resort. So you can almost think of it as like doubling what already exists today with an entirely new space that'll be very close together and sort of connected via a really simple access road to get back and forth between. So even though you technically have to leave the Universal bubble to get to the Epic Universe area, it's only a short exit of the bubble and then you're right back into another bubble that they're creating. And what's more than that is there is actually space set aside in reserve right now for a fourth park, or should I say a fifth gate if you include Volcano Bay. So there, not only will there be Epic Universe, but there is a yet as of unnamed new park that is going to sit right next to Epic Universe. And then those two parks will be joined by City Walk right in the middle. So again, you're basically going to get the same. So if you think about Universal Orlando Resort and what it looks like today with the parking structures, the hotels, the two different theme parks, the City Walk area, replicate that entire experience and move it over here, and that's basically what they're building. That is huge. Epic Universe is just one small part of that entire giant ecosystem. Let's talk about the size of this thing. So the entire Universal property as it stands right now is about 735 acres. 735 acres. And you can see here on the screen how much space it roughly takes up. Epic Universe, the space that they're creating right now with Epic Universe is 750 acres. So it's more than doubling the current property that they have. So just how big is this new area? What I want to do is I want to actually on the screen drop in a few comparison points for you to see how big this place actually is. First, I want to start off with, here's the space. This entire dirt patch here, I've got it outlined here. This is the space that they've purchased. Now, if you take the existing Universal Orlando Resort, the whole thing, and lay it over top of it, this is what it looks like. So you can see that this thing is huge. This space that they're creating is enormous. The entire Universal Orlando Resort fits inside of it, which is what we kind of already talked about. But let's compare this now to Disney and how big are some of the areas at Disney. So let's start with something like Magic Kingdom. If I drop the Magic Kingdom into this plot of land that they have for Epic Universe and this space around Epic Universe, this is what Magic Kingdom, it fits inside of this easily. What if I drop in Epcot, which is a pretty big space? If I drop in Epcot, this is what it looks like. What about Hollywood Studios? Let's put Hollywood Studios in here now and see what it looks like. You can see all these things fit extremely easily in this plot of land. What about Animal Kingdom, which is enormous? I mean, it's a huge piece of space. It fits inside of this pretty easily. Now, there are some back areas of Animal Kingdom that I'm not including in this diagram here, like the train ride over to Rafiki's Planet Watch, and then a large portion of the sort of like savannah in the back. But the main park itself easily fits in this space. Even Disney Springs, if I layer Disney Springs into this, it fits easily. So you can see how big this area is. It is enormous. It is not just one small like theme park being added into Universal Orlando. It is an entire new area. Now let's actually put all of them in there. I'll put Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, Disney Springs. Let's lay it all in there. And you can see all of Disney's parks and Disney Springs almost kind of fit in this space. Not quite, but almost fit in this space. That's how big this is. So this is going to be huge. It is going to completely transform things. Now let's talk a little bit about what's going to be in Epic Universe. I already talked about a whole new city walk and parking structures and hotels, but let's talk about the actual Epic Universe theme park. What is actually going to be in it and what's it going to look like? Right now, everything we know about Epic Universe is going to be comprised of 5 lands. I'm going to actually throw up some of the concept art for what it's going to look like. So if you think of something like Islands of Adventure has different lands or different worlds, right? It has the sort of Seuss Landing. It has the Jurassic Park area. It has the Wizarding World in Hogsmeade. It has the Marvel sort of superheroes land. So you can see it's going to be similar with the Epic Universe. There are going to be multiple different lands. Now let's start out with the main land, which is the central hub. So if you think about Islands of Adventure, it doesn't really have a central hub. It has a giant pond or lake in the middle of it. And then Universal Studios, kind of similar. I mean, it has kind of this pond in this big section of it, and you have to walk around it. So it's getting interesting because Epic Universe is going to be the first sort of wheel and spoke layout park for Universal. Usually it's sort of like a racing track design where you're kind of like going around in a circle. They've actually adopted more of the wheel and spoke that you see at Magic Kingdom in Disney for Epic Universe. So the central hub is tentatively, not definitively, again this is rumored, it's called the Celestial Gardens is what it's going to be potentially called. So this Celestial Gardens area is not just going to be a bunch of shopping district, a bunch of like decorative and fountains and things. There are supposed to be actual attractions in the Celestial Gardens. Everything from a giant roller coaster, which I'll talk about, to a potential carousel that's over the water. So there's a few different attractions. Right now there is a Dueling Space Coaster that is part of the Celestial Hub. Right now it hasn't been announced to be part of any of the other lands, so we're assuming that it's right off of the central hub. And it is a racing coaster similar to Dueling Dragons back in the day at Islands of Adventure, just more space themed, but it will be very similar. Then as I mentioned, there's potentially a carousel that's sort of over top of some water, a beautiful fountain area, and then there's also a hotel. This will be the first in-property hotel for Universal. So an actual hotel that you could stay at that's in the property essentially. So you can go in and out of the hotel right into the theme park. Obviously if you have a ticket and get in and out in there, I'm sure there will be security restrictions. But it will be the first one that you can literally just step outside of your hotel and go to the park, which I think is really cool. And this is referred to as sort of like the Celestial Hotel. Again, we don't know 100%. Right now there are slated to be about 2 to 3 different quick service food options within the hub and potentially 2 to 3 full sit-down restaurants within the hub. So a lot of like food, entertainment, shopping, but also some attractions. Now, as you move out from the sort of spoke, the central hub, starting in the bottom left of the image, you can see the first world or the first land is Super Nintendo World. Anyone who's a big fan of Nintendo knows exactly probably what Super Nintendo World is going to be. Very much focused on Nintendo's IP, their properties like Mario and Donkey Kong and Yoshi. It's a really cool space. The theme is said to be the Mushroom Kingdom, is the sort of design aesthetic, and we kind of know that that's actually going to be what it is because a couple of things. One, there is a Super Nintendo land already in the Japan park, and there is also a Super Nintendo World as part of Universal Hollywood, which is slated to open early 2023. So we kind of know what it's going to look like. I'm going to throw some of the images and some of the video here on the screen. You should be able to get a good look at what it's supposed to be. And there are a few different attractions for this world. The first one is there is a Mario Kart Dark Ride slated, which is sort of a racing, augmented reality game, coaster ride attraction, if you will, that you can experience, which looks really, really cool. The second one is a Yoshi's Family Ride, which sort of is reminiscent of kind of like a Haunted Mansion style ride or a Spaceship Earth style ride at Disney, or it's just kind of a slow moving Omnimover style ride, but just with a lot of like Yoshi's Island decorations, nice overlooks of the actual Super Nintendo world. But there is also, however, rumored to be the Donkey Kong area, the Donkey Kong land, as part of the Super Nintendo world. This actually is being built right now in the Japan park. They're actually adding the Donkey Kong world to it. But Epic Universe is rumored to be launching with the Donkey Kong world. And this is going to have its own ride as well. Based on some of the permits and the patents and things that have been filed by Universal lately, it looks like it's going to be an innovative new ride technology that is basically going to give you the feeling of being on a runaway minecart. Anyone who's ever played some of the Donkey Kong games, like the Donkey Kong Country games, you know that one of the iconic classic levels that you could play was a runaway minecart. And so they are basically trying to mimic that same sort of aesthetic. And as you can see in the diagrams that I'm displaying here, it has this sort of arm off the side, and there's this minecart, which is where the passengers would sit, and then the arm sort of connects down to a ride system down at the bottom underneath that actually travels along a track. And so you actually have sort of a false minecart track in front of, or right in front of you and below you, that makes you feel like you're on a minecart track that maybe has gaps and different levels and things like that. So your cart is actually jumping off the track because of the way it will be designed, which sounds really, really cool and kind of intense. So I'm really hoping that this is actually what they're going to be building. Again, it's all rumor right now, but it's pretty good information that this is what's going to be created. And right now it looks like there will be one quick service location to eat at in Super Nintendo World, which is Toad's Cafe. There may be others, but right now that's what we know about. So Super Nintendo World is definitely the one we know the most about. The next area, as you go up along the left side of the map, you can see what is likely going to be the classic Monsters World. Universal has been trying to launch this sort of Monsters universe for a while now, and it is rumored that this land is going to be the Monsters land, possibly themed after the Frankenstein sort of village that is part of the backlot at Universal in Hollywood. Something similar to that is potentially what it's going to be themed after. And right now, what we know about the attractions that will actually be in this area of the park is there is slated to be some sort of dark ride, some sort of intense dark ride though, not necessarily something like the Haunted Mansion, but something much more intense than that. We don't know what it will be. And then potentially a giant show or amphitheater area. Now, there's also rumor that the show has since been scrapped and there may actually be a second attraction, some sort of coaster or dark ride in its place. So we don't know just yet. And right now it looks like there may be two different quick service food options in that area. Now, as you continue to the top of the sort of park, you'll notice there's the hotel. That's the hotel I was talking about in the Celestial Hub, the sort of Celestial Hotel. Now, as you continue over a little bit further to the upper right portion of the park, you will see what is potentially going to be the new Wizarding World of Harry Potter / Fantastic Beasts area. And we don't know if it's going to be themed sort of after the Paris or London areas, but what is rumored is that there will be a Ministry of Magic there. So if you think about how Hogsmeade sort of has the Hogwarts Castle as sort of the big major structure there, in Diagon Alley over at Universal, you have Gringotts Bank. People are saying that it's probably going to be something like the Ministry of Magic for this particular area of the park, which I'm super excited about if it is, because the Ministry of Magic is in both Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts, so it doesn't really limit them from creating things in that park that are skewed either towards Fantastic Beasts or Harry Potter. They could potentially add things from both series, and the Ministry of Magic is a nice bridge between them because, again, it spans all of those movies. So I'd be excited to see like the different flue systems and the areas of the Ministry of Magic. It's a really cool thing. If you remember the iconic scene between Dumbledore and Voldemort, that was a really cool scene. So I'm hoping we get to see some of these neat areas of the Ministry of Magic in that space. A couple of the attractions that are speculated right now and that we've heard is there is going to be some sort of dark ride. Again, maybe the Ministry of Magic, not sure. There's also going to be some sort of intense VR experience. Again, could be the Ministry of Magic or another ride. We don't know just yet. And then there will be some sort of theater show. And right now it looks like there's at least one quick service food option in this area. Now the last area of the park is in the bottom right here, and that's the How to Train Your Dragon world, which is really interesting. We don't know exactly yet which island or what it's going to be, but it's probably going to be the main island from How to Train Your Dragon. And there are a few attractions that we are hearing about. The first is the Dragon Coaster. Not a lot is known just yet, but there are some patents, there are some technologies and things that are starting to leak about what that ride will look like, but it is going to be some sort of intense coaster, potentially has a dragon tail as part of the actual coaster itself, either the ride cars or somewhere on the track, but some sort of like reticulating dragon tail, which sounds really cool. And the Dragon Coaster looks like it might actually go throughout the park. So instead of the actual coaster being walled off in sort of its own little section of the park, if you think of things like Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure, which is kind of like behind a little like, sort of castle-y facade here, like a gateway, and then it's just over in its little section. This How to Train Your Dragon Coaster looks like it might actually go throughout the entire world, or at least a big portion of the How to Train Your Dragon world. So almost like you're flying on the back of maybe like Toothless or a dragon, and you're actually flying around the park, around buildings, through buildings, and things like that. So it sounds really cool. There are going to be a lot of outdoor spots and outdoor places with regards to the Dragon Coaster, and a lot of indoor locations where there might be some animatronics or showpieces that sort of tell a story similar to Hagrid's. So it sounds really amazing. There's also going to be some sort of boat ride. There's also going to be a Skyfly ride, which kind of seems similar to like sort of a carnival type ride where you're on an arm and it's doing some sort of like flying. And then potentially a stage show. So a lot of stuff right now potentially slated for How to Train Your Dragon. We also know that there's going to be a quick service restaurant in there and potentially a full sit-down restaurant called the Great Hall. Again, part of the village in How to Train Your Dragon, which sounds really cool. Now those are the main areas of Epic Universe, but I do want to say that there is also spacing. There are huge plots of land even between those worlds where they can also potentially expand and add new worlds within Epic Universe itself. So these worlds that are part of Epic Universe as the launch are by no means the end of Epic Universe. There will probably be more worlds added because there's a lot more space there than what they're actually using. But I do want to talk a little bit more about what else there is there. As I mentioned, there's a whole entire city walk. But I think one of the things that begs mentioning is the giant back of the house area, which I'll illustrate on the screen here. Up at the very top of this image, you can see there is a large section of space that's dedicated to No Park. What's actually being there, and they're building it right now. So if you're interested in seeing progress on the building, check out our videos. I will link to the video below of where we actually go out to the site where they're building this. And we've got video, I talk a little bit about it, I show what's gonna be where. Check that video out below. If you don't see the video below, it's because it hasn't posted yet. It will post, depending on when you catch this video, it will post within the next day or two. So just check back then. But we will continue to do those progress reports where we go out to the site and take a look at it, and I will connect those links here below. That back of the house section, you can see it's already being built, is huge. It's a huge amount of space for back of the house. Now, back of the house is important because this is where sort of your casting, your wardrobe, food service, a lot of different things happen to keep the park running. And why this is important that they have so much space here is because, again, Universal Orlando Resort as it is today is run out of space. They really don't have space to put anything else. And so what people are speculating, and the rumor is that they're creating this huge back of the house area at the Epic Universe side of it that could potentially service a lot of the different elements that need to be serviced over in the Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure side. Why this is important is because if that's the case, what it allows them to do is potentially demolish some of the buildings that are currently being used for back of the house operations at Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios. Why that's great is because by demolishing some of these buildings and then moving those services over to the Epic Universe side, they can now use that space to build new attractions. So not only is Epic Universe going to be all brand new and this whole entire new world over here, but they will still have the option and the ability to potentially even expand Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios by creating new attractions without having to demolish old attractions. So instead of having to demolish something like the Jaws attraction to make room for Diagon Alley at Wizarding World, they could potentially keep Jaws in action and create a new space for Wizarding World. Obviously, that ship has sailed, Jaws is gone, but that should at least illustrate the point. So that's really exciting news because it keeps Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios fresh as well as opening an entirely brand new park. Now, as I mentioned, there is a lot of space that they're currently reserving for a fourth park. That fourth park could be anything, and I think it's exciting at the prospects at what it brings to the table. Because not only are you going to have Epic Universe and City Walk, but you're going to have an entirely other park that's going to be created, and they already have space to do it. Now, this may be a few years away, but it's amazing because it creates an entirely new world of options. And again, more hotel space over there, it connects the two. So again, within the next 5 to 10 years, you could potentially see 2 entire versions of what you see at Universal Orlando Resort today. And that is starting to get them closer and closer to the scale and the amount of things that there are to do at Universal as there is at Disney. So this is a huge thing for Universal. Right now, Universal is sort of considered a side trip. A lot of people view Universal as a side trip. as a, hey, maybe I'll go to Disney or I'll go on vacation for a week or so, and then I'll do a day or 2 or 3 at Universal, or maybe it's just sort of a weekend trip. Whereas Disney is much more of sort of an inclusive, I'm gonna be there for an entire week or even 2 weeks at Disney. It's an all immersive experience. You stay within the bubble. People view sort of Universal as like, maybe a day or 2 worth of time. What this Epic Universe does and all this stuff that they're creating in the new City Walk, this changes them from sort of a side trip to now the main attraction. So this is a huge thing for Universal, and I think it is going to be a huge thing for Disney. I think that this could potentially take a lot of share from Disney. We know that just adding the Wizarding World of Harry Potter took about 5% of Disney's share away from them. So this could be potentially transformative for both Universal and Disney. So Disney definitely has some soul searching to do in thinking about what this is going to bring to the area. Again, as I mentioned at the top of this video, this is not just a theme park that they're adding. This is an entire universe of things. It's the Epic Universe, City Walk, and potentially another park and a lot of different hotels. It's creating a second bubble, and it's creating a much more immersive experience. Now let's talk a little bit about what it's going to do for the area. What's really interesting is that wedged between Universal Orlando Resort and the new area where Epic Universe is a lot of different entertainment options on International Drive. And you also have Universal Boulevard. International Drive is hugely popular. There are a lot of attractions there. There's Icon Park, there's all sorts of restaurants, there's a Wonderworks, wax museums, everything. I mean, it is a huge tourist destination. And it's going to be right between these 2 parks. In addition, you have Universal Boulevard, which is also up and coming, and it sort of runs along the backside of the attractions and things at International Drive. And with the addition of the hotels along Universal Boulevard that connect to the Epic Universe space, they're going to be within walking distance of International Drive and Universal Boulevard. So you can easily walk or even just a short car drive or bus trip over to a lot of the attractions there. So I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a ton of new things start popping up along Universal Boulevard, and you're going to see a lot more investment continue into International Drive, and I think it is going to create an entire boom of entertainment and things to do in that space. And this whole Universal space with International Drive and Universal Boulevard, it's going to turn into this massive bubble of tourism. It already is a huge bubble of tourism, but I think it's going to get even bigger. It's going to completely transform the area. Then you have things like the Bright Line that are potentially coming in from the airport with transportation via the train system instead of having to take a cab or a bus, that they're trying to get moved over to come to Universal, not just Disney. So I think with all these things happening, it is going to significantly change the entire landscape of that area here in the next few years. So there you have it. Right now, Epic Universe slated to open sometime in 2025, which seems like a long way away, but trust me, it is not. And those things are popping up so fast. Every time I drive by there, every time I go over there, there are new structures. I was just over there 2 days ago, and I went by today actually, and an entire new building is there that wasn't there before. And so I could not be more excited about what this is going to bring to the Orlando area. I hope you're excited too. Stay tuned because there will be more episodes of this as we know more information about the coasters, as we know more information about the park and opening dates and all the things that are going to be added. We will let you know. I will do more progress videos. I'll go out to the site, we'll see it as it's being built, and I will post those here on this channel. So definitely subscribe below if you want to stay tuned and you want to find out how are things coming on Epic Universe. Be sure to check out all of our other content. We got lots of Disney content. We've got lots of updates on other things. Feel free to like this video, share this video with friends, anybody that you think might be interested in what's happening with Epic Universe. Until I see you tomorrow, the noble way is the easy way. Bye-bye, everybody.